All right, let's talk about the hidden engines that power the modern online world. Today, we're diving into how the smartest companies go way beyond just collecting data. We're going to see how they build these incredible systems of intelligence that turn raw information into decisive, powerful action.
So, here's where we're headed. We'll kick things off with a problem that everyone faces: data overload. Then, we're going to climb what I call the pyramid of business intelligence. We'll explore decision support systems, then knowledge management systems, and finally reach the peak with knowledge-based expert systems before tying it all together.
You know, every business today, big or small, has the same fundamental issue. They are absolutely drowning in data. We're talking clicks, sales records, support logs, customer feedback. It's just this endless ocean of information. But here's the thing. Having a ton of data is not the same as having wisdom. The real question is, what do you do with it all?
I mean, really think about that for a second. A massive online store doesn't have an army of people sitting there manually tweaking the price of every single product based on what competitors are doing or how much stock they have. The scale is just mind-bogglingly huge. So, how on earth do they pull it off? And that, right there, is the answer. It's not about the data itself, but about building these sophisticated, intelligent systems that are designed to manage, and in some cases completely automate, these incredibly complex decisions. This is what separates the leaders from everyone else. Let's start at the first level.
Okay, our first stop is the Decision Support System, or DSS. Now, the absolute best way to think about a DSS is to picture it as a co-pilot for a manager. It's not flying the plane by itself, right? But it's providing the pilot, that's our human decision maker, with all the critical data, models, and scenarios they need to make the best possible call.
Now, if you're studying for an exam, this is the definition you need to know. The key words here are interactive and semi-structured. Interactive means the user is constantly talking to the system, asking questions, tweaking variables, exploring possibilities. And it's built for semi-structured problems. You know, the messy stuff, like setting a marketing budget or approving a tricky bank loan. There's no single correct answer, but data can help you find the best one.
So what really sets a DSS apart? Well, like we said, it's for those gray area, real-world decisions. It has to be super interactive and user-friendly, with things like dashboards and charts. It uses both raw data and powerful analytical models, like forecasting tools. But, and this is probably the most important point, it enhances human judgment. It never replaces it. The manager is always in the driver's seat. The goal isn't just to make a decision faster, it's to make a better decision.
Let's make this real with an e-commerce example. So, a manager needs to figure out a sale price for a new gadget. First, she plugs in the historical sales numbers and what her competitors are charging. The DSS crunches that data using a forecasting model to predict how many units she'll sell at different discount levels. Then comes the cool part. She can interact, asking, what if we do a 15% discount versus 20%? The system spits out a clear dashboard showing the projected profit for each choice. And finally, armed with all this insight, she makes the final informed call. That's a DSS at work.
All right, time to move up the pyramid. If a DSS is a co-pilot for one person, a knowledge management system, or KMS, is totally different. It's like the collective, searchable brain for the entire company. It's all about managing a company's single most valuable asset, what it actually knows.
So a KMS is all about capturing, sharing, and then actually using knowledge. And what's fascinating here is that there are two kinds of knowledge. You've got explicit knowledge, that's the easy stuff, the things written down in manuals and reports. But the real gold is the tacit knowledge. That's the wisdom inside your employees' heads, the stuff an expert just knows from years of doing their job. A great KMS helps you tap into both.
Any solid KMS is really built on 4 pillars. First, you've got acquisition. That's just getting the knowledge in there, like writing up a lessons learned document after a big project. Second is storage, which means organizing it all in a central place, like a company wiki that everyone can search. Third is dissemination, making sure people can actually find the knowledge when they need it. And finally, you have application. That's the magic moment when a customer service agent uses that knowledge base to solve a tricky problem in 2 minutes instead of 2 hours.
So why bother with all this? Well, the payoff is massive. Problems get solved way faster because nobody has to reinvent the wheel. New employees get up to speed in a fraction of the time. It encourages people to collaborate and innovate. And maybe most importantly, it leads to way better, much more consistent customer service.
And now we arrive at the very top of our pyramid, the Knowledge-Based Expert System, or KBS. If the DSS was a co-pilot, the KBS is more like an autopilot for very specific, very complex jobs. This is a system that doesn't just support a decision, it can actually emulate a human expert and make the decision all by itself. So, the whole point of a KBES is to copy the thinking process of a human expert in a really narrow field, like diagnosing a problem with a jet engine or spotting a fraudulent credit card purchase. It works by using a preloaded knowledge base of facts and a set of logical rules. Let's break down how the pieces work.
First up, you have the knowledge base. The easiest way to think of this is as the system's own personal textbook. It is jam-packed with facts, data, and crucially, all the rules of thumb and little tricks that a human expert would use. And this knowledge has to be painstakingly collected from real human experts.
Next, we have the inference engine. This is really the brain of the whole operation. It's a software that takes the information a user gives it, looks at the rules in the knowledge base, and then reasons its way through the problem to come up with a conclusion.
So how does this brain actually think? Well, it often uses these really simple but powerful if-then rules. For example, a tech support expert system might have a rule that says, if the customer's problem is login failed and they recently reset their password, then the system should suggest clearing the browser cache. The true power comes when the inference engine can chain together hundreds or even thousands of these simple rules to solve incredibly complicated problems.
And finally, there's the user interface. This is how a regular person, a non-expert, can have a conversation with the system. They type in the facts about their situation through a simple screen, and the system gives them back the expert-level answer they need. The benefits here are pretty incredible. A system like this can preserve the knowledge of a top employee who's about to retire. It makes perfectly consistent, high-quality decisions every single time 24/7. It can analyze huge amounts of data way faster than any human could. This lets companies scale their expertise without having to hire an entire army of expensive specialists. It's a game changer. Okay, so we've looked at three pretty different systems: the DSS, the KMS, and the KBES. But here's the thing. In a truly intelligent company, these systems don't live on separate islands. They work together. They build on each other, creating these powerful layers of intelligence.
This pyramid just lays it all out perfectly. At the very bottom, the foundation is your raw data. Level 1 is the DSS, helping humans analyze that data to make smarter decisions. Level 2 is the KMS, which takes the knowledge gained from those decisions and shares it with everyone. And at the very top, the apex, you've got the KBES, which takes all that expert knowledge and uses it to automate complex decisions. See how each level builds on the one before it?
Phew, okay. We have covered a lot of ground. So let's wrap it up and boil it all down to the key takeaways. If you need a quick recap for your notes or an exam, the next slide is your ultimate cheat sheet.
This table says it all. The primary goal is the key. A DSS assists, a KMS shares, and a KBS automates. The users are different too. Managers use a DSS, pretty much all employees use a KMS, and non-experts use a KBES to get expert advice. And if you remember anything, remember the analogies: the co-pilot, the company brain, and the digital expert. From a pricing tool to a medical diagnosis bot, you can really see how each system has its own vital role to play.
And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. As all these systems get smarter and more powerful, what does that mean for us? What's the future role for human decision-making? Where do our uniquely human skills, like creativity, intuition, and strategic thinking, provide the most value? That's definitely something to chew on.